Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name's Ryan. We'll be running our webinar today on the IT help desk for SharePoint Online, SharePoint On-Premise. Just real quick, I'm going to give folks a minute or two to kind of trickle in here, but I'm going to launch a poll briefly discussing like what version of SharePoint you're on. If you guys could fill that out, I would greatly appreciate it. It'll help me kind of dictate what we're going to be covering today from the admin side. So I'm going to launch that right now. Go ahead and fill that out as you guys see fit. And while I do that, I'm gonna put myself on Do Not Disturb for Teams because if I don't, people will ping me. Okay. So for those folks trickling in, again, my name is Ryan. I got a poll out right now talking about what version of SharePoint you're on-prem or online. Go ahead and fill that out. We're gonna let that run for another 60 seconds or so, then we'll hop into the demo here. Yeah, and I see a question coming in. There will be a recording of this webinar, and that we will make the recording available after the fact.
Right, and I'm here to answer questions. This is Scott. I'm going to be helping with Ryan by answering questions. So if anybody's questions, put them into the box, and I'll be glad to. Well, at least I'll attempt to answer them during this webinar.
Yeah, and if anything pops up, Scott will stop me, ping me in the middle of the demo. We could take a deeper dive if it's something pertinent at that moment. But I think we got a pretty good response back here on the poll. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and we're going to jump into the dashboard here, or into the demonstration. So again, my name is Ryan. I run a lot of front end stuff here at Crow Canyon, sales, etc., product demos. Scott's, whose voice you heard, is our CEO. He's going to be answering questions. So, like we said, if things do pop up, give us a shout. We'll try to answer those in real time, or at the end of the demo, Scott will be answering in chat. And if we need to address something, we will. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Crow Canyon before we jump in. So as you can see here, I got some applications displayed on my page here. And what we do is we kind of have, well, two sides of our business, but in reality, they're connected. So what I mean by that is we have this, kind of like NITRO Studio side, which is this DIY version of an info path replacement tool, right? So you have this ability to essentially replace info path using NITRO Studio. As is for those who are more familiar with SharePoint on-prem, NITRO Studio is being deprecated, and it's created this niche for us inside the info path replacement space using NITRO Forms workflows, this business process automation platform to replicate your old info path replacement tools. The reason I say that is because now we're going to be talking about this other side of these out-of-the-box applications for SharePoint Online, SharePoint On-Premise. So IT Helpdesk specifically today. The cool thing here is that the NITRO Studio comes included in the targeted site, in the application site. So while we offer, NITRO as a standalone DIY inside of your SharePoint tenancy, right, where it can be deployed tenant-wide, site-wide, site collection, or no, tenant-wide or individual sites, it's also included in the applications. So it's essentially this long-winded way to say, hey, look, the tools come a certain way out of the box, which we're covering today, but they also come included with the tool set that we use to build the applications with, right? This business process automation platform. So the applications can be changed, can be configured after they're deployed, whether that's through your team, through our team, through knowledge transfer, right? We have a lot of options in terms of configuring the application once it's installed. And that's really the nice thing about SharePoint, right? I mean, you're not limited in terms of what you can do from a design perspective. The applications are installed in your guys' environment. So therefore, once they're there, you have complete control over it, right? You get to pick and choose who has access, both from the end user level, the technician and the admin level, as well as look and feel of the site and design and functionality of the workflows and the tool set. So with that in mind, let's jump into the Helpdesk demo. So I just briefly mentioned permissions and group structures there. I think that's going to be kind of an important point as we move forward through the demo. Because in my mind, in my eyes, I kind of see this as three distinct groups that interact with any application, any business process, right? You have your end users, your contribute, your read-onlys, or your ticket submitters in this case. You have your technicians, ticket workers, and then you have your admin staff, the folks who have access to the back-end tool set. And I'm going to be covering those in depth today as I work, both from we're going to start at the end user side, the ticket submission side. Sorry, refresh this page, click the wrong button there. And then we're going to be working more towards the technician front, right? What happens when the ticket is created? What's that look like? A little bit of, in conjunction with the admin side, but then we're also going to take not a deep dive, we're going to cover a little bit of what NITRO Studio has to offer. I could talk about NITRO for hours. I get a little lost in NITRO Studio. You can. There is a full, a full set of features there. So I'm going to touch on a little bit of what we can do from a design perspective. But if we kind of reset here and we look at end users, technicians, and admins, that's how I'm going to be structuring our webinar today. So let's start with the end user side. Okay, the first question I get typically is, how can tickets be submitted? The first one is, well, my users are used to submitting tickets via email. What does that look like? And that's absolutely possible. So if we look at our NITRO apps, kind of our first foray into it, we have this feature called email sync. Now, inside of NITRO Studio, or inside of really any application, the forms and the workflows get the most love because that's typically what we're used to interacting with, right? Forms and workflows. But in this instance, we also have a lot of cool other tools that come with NITRO Studio. So email sync being one of them. And email sync allows you to basically capture emails and convert them into tickets, right? So we have the ability to send into a shared inbox or a multitude of shared inboxes and basically create tickets and notify the appropriate group of people. So that's an option, right? You still want to have that email sync option. That's definitely there. Kind of the next iteration or the next growth in terms of ticket submission is this self-service portal, this Helpdesk portal, right? So what it does, it gives your end users a way to interact with that backend department. And it really comes across in these three main forms across the top here: submitting tickets, viewing tickets after submission, and knowledge-based articles. So I like the portal. I mean, I'm a big advocate of the portal. It's something that's kind of a passion for me because it helps keep things separate, different entities. I used to work with other groups where you would kind of commingle people inside of the same site, say this technician targeted site. And it's just too difficult from a permissions perspective to manage and maintain this, right? You're too conscious about who's looking at what, who has access to what. By breaking these out into separate sites, if you look at this almost as it's its own application, right? Its own set of NITRO Studio tool sets underlying this portal, it starts to help to frame how we can make this specific to our end users. So from their perspective, they hit this landing page, don't even necessarily know what the backend looks like or where it exists, but it gives them the ability to submit a ticket from this portal interface. So just like they would via email, but now we can capture more metadata associated to this particular ticket and do some cool things in terms of syncing with SharePoint user profiles or Active Directory, right? So you can see I'm logged in as my admin account up here, and it's pulling that information in over for me: email, phone, department, etc. And then they can work their way through a ticket submission, right? Title it, category and issue type. Now, this is going to be a theme I'm going to talk about a lot throughout the webinar here is multiple lists rolling up into one. So if we look at this tickets list, that's going to be the parent list today. This is going to be the main focus. We have this tickets list. In this instance, we have a category and a subcategory or issue type list that roll up into it. And this is going to be very big. It's an important point for a few different features of the help desk. One, ticket submission, or obviously, right, we're looking at the ticket form. And 2 and 3 being ticket triage and KB article suggestion, right? So let's take a look at that right now. So if I select a category and issue type, let's say hardware request and desktop, you're going to see some articles pop up here or some links here that are actually links to the KB article library. So if I duplicate this, Essentially what we're doing is we're giving these end users the ability to see these KB articles before they submit it, right? So that's kind of the big thing that I get a lot of questions about, user adoption. How can we force the end users to use this portal, or what options do we have in place to make this happen? And this is a nice little feature here, being able to suggest KB articles from your KB article library to the user before the ticket gets submitted. And then when it comes to transferring information into the ticket from the user, screenshots, copy and paste, attachments, right? This is just a rich text field. So any information that they need to get across to the team, they have access to. Hit the submit ticket. They get that green checkbox. Scott makes fun of me. I call it the warm and fuzzies. The satisfaction to see the workflow run and know that your ticket has been created, and now they're going to have access to view that ticket once it's been submitted from this targeted site here, right? So again, this is another feature of NITRO Studio where we're talking about list views. So it gives us the ability to show a particular view specific to the user, going back to that role-based permission discussion, right? End user specific to them. So when you log in, you can see the tickets that you've submitted, their statuses, things like that. And if the technicians have left you any notes related to the ticket, right? So it's just a way to communicate with the end user through the portal, and again, drive that user adoption. Now, as we move forward, especially here internally, we very much, the saying, eat our own dog food. We try to use everything that we offer here internally. And something that we're progressing more towards here is our integration with Teams. Now, this doesn't necessarily work for, a hit for our on-prem folks, sorry, tongue-tied, but I'm just going to briefly cover this for those in Office 365. So anything that's available in terms of like the SharePoint interface in a SharePoint site is now accessible in Teams. So whether it's from the end user perspective, accessing the help desk or the portal, I should say, or the technician's perspective, actually working and maintaining the tickets, which we'll get into in a second, you have that same option as you do in SharePoint. Now it's available in Teams. So my portal here is embedded within Teams, right? IT portal. Get rid of this guy real quick. And then the ticket side as well. So if this is something that you want to push more and more internally, being able to generate and manage, maintain tickets from Teams, you absolutely have that ability. Okay, so first iteration, ticket submission via email. Second iteration is portal. 2A being, the integration with Teams. And now the third piece, the way that we've been driving, I think that we're on the cutting edge. Scott and our development team has done a really nice job with AI services and bots inside of SharePoint. So, or specifically inside of Teams, right? So it's pushing the edge of what I thought SharePoint could do, right? I make this joke a lot for the folks who've heard me demo in the past, but 18 months ago, you would have told me that we would have had bots inside of SharePoint, I probably would have laughed at you. So really, really impressive what our team has done, and super cool. So in this instance, what I'm going to show you guys is our Q&A maker, our support side, right? Our ticket creation side of the bot. And one of our dev leads, Manish, he talks about this of like the self-service portal being that. It's a way to self-serve, right? Go out, view your KB articles, submit tickets, right? Taking the onus on yourself to go in and help correct your issue. Whereas the bot's going to be a little bit more of a guided experience, right? It's going to hold hold the hand, but it's going to guide you through the process of submitting this ticket, right? As opposed to going out and finding that information on your own, it's going to give you the ability to essentially do the same thing you would inside of the ticket interface, where we're just getting you to fill out the ticket. It's now going to be prompting you to do that. So in this case, it's already recognized who I am, what service area that I need help with. We'll say IT. It's asking me to describe my problem. Say forgot password. So now what we're doing here is we're looking at this KB article library and saying, okay, hey, what articles do I have on file that match this problem? What can I suggest to the user before the ticket gets submitted? So you can see here my article prompts and now my actions. Submit a ticket, try something else, start over, right? You're basically giving them the same experience like we said in the portal, but now it's in the bot interface. And what's cool about this is as we look at the Helpdesk site, pull this up again. It gives us the ability to store that analytics in the backend site. So we have a bot dashboard here. If you choose to go down this path of Q&A maker bot, where you can store that information inside of the application itself, inside of the site schema, and you can start to store analytics against your bot or against your KB articles, right? How the interactions are trending, what articles are creating tickets, what articles are resolving issues, right? Gives you that ability to have some sort of metrics to report on and potentially, increase the effectiveness of your KB article library, which ultimately is going to do what, right? Save you time and money, less stress on the IT team if you can start to triage these problems before they even hit your staff. And you can see we have interactions by status. We'll get into the reports in a minute in terms of how these are set up, but monthly interactions, and then a kind of an overview of each KB article, maybe a rating, resolution notes, things like that, target audience, etc. So you have a view into how each interaction is trending. Very cool. I dig it. So email creation, portal, whether it be SharePoint specific or Teams interface for our 365 users, and then again focusing on this Teams bot option inside of Office 365. Okay, now shifting to once a ticket is created. I'm going to go to the admin side first, and then we'll get into actually working the ticket here in a sec. So bear with me. Notifications. The most common, business process workflow that I'm asked about is sending emails, right? Notifications around whether it's a ticket creation or due date, things like that. And we do give you quick links to those notifications here inside of the admin space. So ticket creation, ticket assignment, ticket resolution. It's basically a rich text email template, which gives you the ability to copy information over from the list item into the email notification. Your ticket has been received, and the information associated to the ticket, right? Just a nice, easy way to clean up that interface in terms of how you can notify folks when these certain actions are met, right? Now, just real quickly, our workflow tool are actions based on triggers. Kind of briefly touch on this, but it's, hey, when something happens, when this trigger happens, fire off this action. I'm just going into one here real quick, but created, modified based on a date and time field, and we're going to run that send email action, create a workflow to send an email. Now, another option, again, going back to this Teams, is being able to actually identify or notify a Teams channel. So we use like the create a channel function in our project management piece. We have that adaptive card for our bot. But if you do want to send notifications to a specified Teams channel, if you want to get away from email notifications, you absolutely can. It's essentially the same setup, right? It's a rich text email template where we can map over information from the item into the notification, right? Just grab a couple columns here and move them over. But it's essentially the same functionality. Now we're just notifying the Teams channel as opposed to sending it via email. So again, for those folks who want to kind of push the team space forward, this is an option. And if you want to take a deeper dive into workflows, give me a shout. I'd be happy to run you through everything under our actions here. Very complex to very simple, or very simple to very complex at the send email side, all the way to invoking Azure functions, connecting out to third-party tools by invoking a web service, anywhere in between. So if you're interested in this, give me a holler. I'd be happy to set up a time specifically for us to walk through this. Okay, so notifications when tickets are created. Tickets are created now. Tickets assigning or triaging tickets, right? So I mentioned the category and the issue type list when I was talking about the ticket submission, right? So if we go back to the submit ticket form, I was saying that these are sublists, and this help us set up a few other features inside of the tool set. One of those being ticket assignment. Really, I mean, any way that you guys want to assign tickets, you're more than welcome to. I mean, if you want one person to get the notifications and them to triage them out, no worries. I mean, to get everyone notified and then, having the responsible entity go in and pluck their ticket and assign it to themselves, possible as well. It's up to you guys. So in this case, what I'm showing here is more of like an automated assignment. So having a team be responsible for a certain ticket type, right? A category or a sub issue. So you can see we have the team option and we have an individual owner, category owner. So I've really seen it in a litany of ways, assigning to a parent team, and then, people within that team go in and pluck their ticket for them. We also have the ability to set up round robin. So if you want that round robin option, that's also possible. Okay. Now, once the ticket is created, assigned, right? We walked through that process of creation and assignment. It's going to show up in your dashboard. Oh, wrong page. And it goes back again to that role-based permission idea, where when I log in, I'm going to see things equal to me. Real quick though, for my fellow SharePoint nerds, list rollup. In this dashboard here, this is kind of a cool feature. It doesn't look like much, but in SharePoint out of the box, you can't have multiple lists rolled up into one web part or one dashboard. So in this case, we have, our tiles web part shows you the fully featured, kind of full feature of NITRO here and what it can actually do. Tiles web part, reporting web part, each tied to individual lists. So right now I'm seeing views on the tickets list, right? These are essentially SharePoint views, open tickets, overdue tickets, unassigned, right? And corresponding reports that relate to this list, this tickets list. Now as I shift through, I can see the problems dashboard, I can see the change request dashboard, and the corresponding views and reports associated to those lists. So instead of having to navigate to a new page or a new site, maybe even, or having to reload the page, I can do so all using our list rollup web part, all from the same interface. Very cool. Something that I think SharePoint kind of lacks, and everything that NITRO offers is an enhancement to SharePoint, right? Okay, so maybe this is the top level space. Let's dive down into the staff workspace. Going back to that role-based permission idea. So when I log in, I'm going to see tickets that are due today or less than today, right? Basically due or overdue, specific to me. So when I log in and I see this ticket, I can start to work it. Now you're going to see some things here at the top. These guys, these buttons, as well as a few other features. This is all, again, NITRO Studio. So these guys right here, these plus signs with the circle around them, these are called custom actions. So I talked a little bit about the workflow tool being trigger based, right? Having some sort of trigger fire off a set of actions, sending emails, right? I'm talking about that a little bit. Custom actions in my mind are manually invoked workflows, being able to fire off a workflow when I want to by hitting this button. So let's say that maybe this ticket was assigned to Scott by accident, and now I want to go in and reassign this to me. I want to rerun the workflow to notify the end user that the ticket has been reassigned from Scott to Ryan, and now it's in Ryan's queue, right? Something simple, all the way down to something a little bit more complex when it comes to creating problems and change requests, which I'll get into in a sec here, so bear with me. But these custom actions not only give you the ability to do everything that we have available in the workflow tool, it also has some extra functionality when it comes to generating documents, uploading documents. It really is a cool piece. And again, I could spend an hour alone on custom actions. We have a lot of cool stuff on the website about it. Again, if you're interested, just give me a holler. We'll walk through it individually. This other guy right here, this one's kind of more pertinent towards communication with the end users. It's this email manager piece. Here's custom actions, here's email manager. Essentially what it does, it gives you the ability to send an email from a SharePoint list item, right? So in this case, it's a ticket. You're like, what does that mean? Well, it's basically a time saver. Okay, so I do this a lot internally. It's like, okay, I take communication, whether it's through one of you guys or Scott, myself, or really anyone inside of my organization, take the email that I sent, I copy it, and I paste it into a list item. It's tedious. It's like, why, right? So what we've done is we've given you the ability to kind of circumvent that. It's called this email manager. And what it does is it basically just gives you the ability to send an email and automatically relate it to a ticket. So in this case, I have it set up from a shared inbox. It could be a no reply. It could be your individual email address. That's up to you guys. And out of the box, I have it set up to go to the requester. And then we have the ability to send specific mail templates or free form your own email. So if you're used to typing the same email over and over again, like password reset, it's like, do these 5 things. Instead of having to manually type that out, you can create and save a mail template inside of the actual application, inside of the email manager tool. Create your own mail templates. Sorry, wrong one. And then have those selectable as a drop down, or like I said, create your own email. So I mentioned it a few times. There we are again, warm and fuzzies, right? I know it sounds silly, but the green arrows to know that it fired off correctly, I don't know, it just makes me feel better about it. But we talked about this connection earlier, okay, multiple lists inside of the application. So what does that really mean? Now we're going to start to see it come into play here when we're working this ticket. Talked a little bit about it with category and issue type, but it's going to be more pertinent here with like email history and again, some other features. So email history is its own list. Okay, we've written that email, we've sent the email from my outbox, it's gone to the user, and now what we do is we've taken that email and we write it into the email history list. So now any email associated with that thread, both incoming or outgoing, are going to be saved against this particular ticket. So you don't have to go back and forth, you don't have to copy and paste, we don't have to waste that 15, 20 minutes per day copying everything from Outlook into the ticket system. It's going to do it automatically for you. Huge thing, no, time saver, absolutely, and you know, I know in my day, time's a big thing, right? Okay, so let's talk about working the ticket. You know, we try to keep it as straightforward as possible. You know, this first tab is capturing information either from the email or from the ticket form. You know, on the portal, category, issue type, title, description, requester info, right? Essentially the same thing. Now, gosh, the question I get a lot, you know, it was in the first 10 minutes of like a live demo. You know, someone's interacting with me. The question is how configurable are these forms? You know, like what can I do? Can I change these? Can I configure these? And you know, again, the answer is unequivocally yes. So in the forms tool, I mean, if we think about these from the core concept of this is a, sorry, wrong page again. If this is a SharePoint list, right, tickets list, okay, these are our columns in the tickets list. So it's basically a a container with our controls. This is as configurable as you want it to be. I can go down a deep wormhole with tickets. I'm going to try to limit myself here, but the forms tool is it's cool. I don't know, you know, I don't know of a better way to say it. It's easy to use. It's cool. It basically gives you complete control over what you can do from your form design perspective, not only from a look and feel, setting up your own individual theme for your organization, right? You know, your own color, your own font family, your own font color, your own cell and column colors. It's super cool. But really from a design and a display perspective, I mean, these are the tabs, right, that correspond on the front end. And when it comes to adding information into these, it's basically just looking under form controls, seeing all of our available SharePoint columns here, and then whatever one we want, just being able to drag and drop it into the form, right? So if you want to drag and drop any columns into a control, you can. If you're thinking like, hey, maybe I want more tabs, I can absolutely add in more tabs. Maybe you want some, you know, the ability to free text in or add in free, you know, rich text to the form as well for you know, an easier experience with your users. You have that ability, so you can really take it and run with the form designer. You know, in my mind, it breaks down into 3 different levels. I have my UI, my look and feel, like I briefly touched on. You know, the design, adding containers, the global theme, to SharePoint specifics, permissions, you know, form event actions, column validations, things like that, all the way down to the more developer-centric side of external data columns, injecting JavaScript, leveraging our custom actions when a certain form is saved or a certain column value is met. Really cool tool. Again, this is something that if you want a deeper dive on, let's schedule a time to do a NITRO specific demo. But this is kind of going back full circle to what I was talking about in the beginning. If you have this fully functioning info path replacement tool, it just happens to also live in this help desk. So anything that you want to change, that you want to add, it's there, it's possible, it's living inside of our NITRO apps. Okay. So back to the ticket specifically. So again, anything you want to do from a metadata perspective, you can. But let's talk about this staff tab. So the assigned person, the assigned team, like we talked about, right? It can be either SharePoint user profiles, SharePoint groups, distribution groups, due dates. Okay, so depending on how, it's probably like 50-50 I see with my customers in terms of SLAs, right? It's either a very hot topic or it's something that we want to grow into or it's something that we're not really interested in now. And that's fine. Honestly, anywhere in between is okay with you guys. SLAs, in my opinion, it's kind of like purchasing, I guess would be the right term, meaning like everyone's purchase request system is very specific to their organization, right? I think the more and more I interact with people, I realize that SLAs are the same. And I went through the whole process of showing you NITRO Studio because it kind of leads into this SLA discussion, right? If you want your SLAs to be complex and comprehensive and have something like, being able to update a ticket when an SLA when a ticket is due, the assign due time, the response due time, and then from a reporting perspective, be able to show that in a graphical interface, right? That's all possible. So it goes back to that anywhere in between discussion of, you want to just create a ticket and manage the ticket, maybe put up a due date, or maybe just work the ticket internally. Great. If you want the more, SLA driven, average time taken to resolve, updating, responding, that's also there as well, either from the, from a workflow and report perspective. Resolution. Okay, so going back to our notifications piece, right? So in the internal side, on ticket completion, right? Ticket resolution, I should say. So when the ticket is equal to resolved, we're going to send this resolution note to our end users. Okay, right? Ticket status equal to resolved. This is a multi-line of text, rich text column inside of SharePoint. So rich text, screenshot, copy and paste, attachments, just like we talked about from the ticket submission side. Same kind of feel, right? So what we can do is, like I said, we can send this to the end users, but I'm going to skip a tab here and come over to KB articles. And what you can do is by clicking this button, it runs a workflow to turn that rich text column into a SharePoint wiki page and update your KB article library under the category and the issue type that the ticket was created under or saved under, right? You can always come back in and change these after the fact. So it gives you that ability to build out your KB article library as you're using the ticket system. So if you have something fully fledged and ready to rock from a KB articles perspective right now, fantastic, that's great. If it's something that you want to grow into, you want to eventually use, it gives you the ability to grow into it, right? You can use the ticket system and build out this KB article library as you go. And I said, remember I mentioned category and issue type coming back from a few features. This is that other feature, right? Other than not only ticket triage, but suggesting articles on the front end. So in the employee portal, when I selected a few categories and issue types when the ticket was going through the ticket creation process, that's what we're feeding from, right? The category and the issue type of the ticket is going to suggest articles to them based on their selection internally. So you can start to see how we connect everything together, how the lists are tied together, right? This is a KB article library. So it gives you the ability to connect all of these different lists and all of these different features inside of the application and display them from one form, from one common interface. It's a feature called associated items. It lives in our forms tool. And again, it gives us the ability to replicate repeating rows and info path, but also provide a clean user interface for our applications as well. And that's going to be pertinent here when we talk about this related items tab. So we talked a little bit about email history. Another feature here that I see used pretty frequently is this associated task list. So again, if we look at this from the back end, let me delete this guy real quick. Look at our related items tab. What this is its own list, right? A task list is its own list with its own form. So if I pull this up and I look at my forms tool and I want to try to find the list internally here, I can see associated tasks as its own list, right? So the reason that we break these up into separate lists is form flexibility, permission structure, right? We don't have to load all of these columns on the form if we're not going to use a secondary task or subtask related to the ticket, right? So it's going to load faster and gives us the ability to capture unique metadata to a sub list. But what we've done is we essentially connected these two lists together using that associated items feature. So if I come in here and I edit this, you can see it's just a lookup to that particular list and a view on that list and the form on that list, right? So now when we look at it at the front end and we put it into practice, let's say someone's coming on as a new hire, right? You're hiring Ryan on, or you're bringing Scott in, and we have yes, he's an onboard, but he also needs a monitor. He needs to be set up in AD. He needs a Workdesk station, and maybe all of those tasks are going to be handled by different people, or maybe by the same person. They just need to be tracked individually or independently from the parent ticket. So if we look at it from that perspective of a parent ticket and a child list, you have the ability to break these out and save them and create them against the ticket. Now this also goes back to our, sorry, close out of this here. This also goes back to our list rollup. So as an end user, as not an end user, sorry, as a technician, when I log in, not only can I see my tasks assigned to me, or my tickets assigned to me, I can also see my tasks, right? So you don't have to go anywhere else inside of the organization to see tasks associated to you. Do not complete this task, that's funny. But now if a task does get assigned to you, you need someone else to rope you in, it's all gonna be consumable from their dashboard. Another cool option here. We do the similar thing with time tracking, be able to generate a time log associated to a ticket and then report on it, right? So they can put in a time log here, you put in the time spent on a particular ticket and be able to track that from the ticket as well. Okay, so there's a few iterations of our help desk. And what I mean by that is there's some feature add-ons here, so different costing models essentially. There's the one side where we have just the ticketing piece. Hey, I'm just trying to track tickets inside of my SharePoint space. Now there's also the additional feature set of problem and change request management. And you can see here is kind of the last two pieces of the puzzle here at the bottom. So we look at these, they are independent entities, right? So problems has its own problem dashboard, change request has its own change request dashboard, right? So they're their own list, they're their own business process inside of the application. The cool thing here though is using that associated items piece is that you can actually create problems or you can create change requests from the ticket. So from like a problems perspective, being able to, let's say, I don't know, exchange this down, right? And you get 15 emails in, come on, there we go. You get 15 tickets in about email being done. Okay, and you don't want to have to go through and individually update those. So you take all of those tickets, you associate them to a parent problem, right? And then work the problem as an independent entity, just have these tickets connected to them. So kind of like the ticket to task relationship, how we're talking about how tasks can roll up into tickets, tickets can now roll up into problems. So it can be given a category and issue type, a due date, work through your affected components and your resolution on the problem. And then when the problem is closed, all the subsequent child tickets are closed. And then on the running off the workflow notification, right, all of the end users will be notified. So again, instead of having to go through one by one and update each individual end user that a ticket has been, their ticket's been resolved, when that problem is closed, it'll do it for you. So now change requests. So this is an interesting topic, right? What constitutes a change? And again, I think it's in each entity, each client, each one of you is going to have your own process for a change request, right? It could be a software upgrade, it could be a hardware update, it could be an approval process. Hey, Ryan's requesting a new laptop, and I need Scott to approve it before I can assign Ryan this laptop, right? I want Scott as the approver. So it just gives you the ability to do something above and beyond the ticketing system. In this case, run an approval workflow on it, right? So if we go back to NITRO Studio, we have this advanced approval app, which gives you the ability to create approval tasks associated to a change request. Hey, Scott, I need you to approve this. Hey, I need the CIO to approve this software upgrade or this hardware or this server downtime for 2 to 3 minutes at 5 o'clock on Friday, right? So it gives you the ability to run that change, assign in an individual category, or assign in an owner, a requester, a start and a due date time, and then the details of the change, affected components, mitigation rollback options, risk testing and training requirements, sorry, tongue-tied, as well as the related items. So any subtasks that are associated with the change. And just like we talked about the task list, email history list, if this change request is created from a ticket, now you can see the connection between the two, right? So now the change is automatically related to that sub-ticket. It generated from the sub-ticket. One step further, just briefly here, it's kind of a plug for another application. I know we're in the help desk, so bear with me for a sec here. But we also have a project management piece, and change is kind of like floats that line, right? So being able to create a change or go through some approval process. If you are interested in kind of the next step, in terms of like managing projects, maybe Planner isn't quite what you hoped it to be. Maybe MS Project is a little too robust. You know, you need something kind of in between. You want to manage IT projects. That's also possible. So we have this create project custom action available on the form. And basically what it does is it maps information over from the tickets list into the project so you can generate a project from a ticket. So what I'm doing here is just pulling up that project form. Now, I don't have the time to go in and detail out the whole project management tool. I do have some videos available, some webinars that we've done on project management recently. And again, if you want an individual demo, just give me a holler. But you know, if you are looking for that kind of full IT, you know, ITSM, you know, IT help desk to asset tracking to contract management to onboarding tasks to project management, all rolling up into the IT space, that's absolutely possible. All of our applications, while can be independent entities, let's go back to our main page here, right? All of these can be standalone, but really where they're best suited is in support of the help desk, right? So setting up an asset tracking tool with the help desk, setting up purchasing for IT, setting up project management for IT, contracts related to IT contracts. So you can see they all start to hook into each other. Yeah. Reporting. That's right. I knew I was forgetting something. I was about to wrap up here, but I typically have these things timed down to about 45 minutes, but I knew I was missing something. So let's talk a little bit about reports. So I did cover it briefly during the, you know, kind of talking about average time to respond, things like that. So, you know, the easy way to say reporting or the easy way to talk about it, kind of the blanket response is when someone asks me in a demo, hey, can I report on this? Or hey, can I do that? Yes, you know, very plainly, yes. As long as the information lives inside of the system, it can be reported on, right? Now, if you take NITRO a step further and you have NITRO across your tenant, you know, there are some SharePoint limitations where you can't pull information from other site collections or from other lists and roll them up into one page. NITRO eliminates that, right? So if you want to roll up different information inside of a report, you can as well, meaning from other lists or from other sites. But in this instance, we're talking about information living inside of the system, can we report on it? And absolutely. In this instance, for our report tool, we're talking about like categories or columns inside of a ticket, right? So categories are time to resolve tickets by category, right? Incoming tickets by month, incoming problems by month. Where are we? Staff load by tickets, right? So showing me the tickets list, the count by each individual staff member, okay? And the purpose of these is to build out your dashboards, right? To be able to say, hey, go to this page, see these reports, get information. These reports are live, can be updated, you know, every 30 seconds, I believe. They also have the ability to have drill down, so you can click into these and pull up those views, right? The other piece here, the other side is that if you do have kind of like C-levels or management level that want to have some visibility into the system from a reporting perspective, they don't necessarily want to have to come in and look at the back end of the application, you know, sift through the technician side. We can leverage this portal, and if we have that mindset of this is its own independent application, they're just connected, we can build out management dashboards here as well, right? So where maybe the end user side is a little bit more focused on submitting tickets and viewing KB articles, the dashboard could be targeted more to that management level, that C level, to say, hey, okay, here's your trending tickets, here's your average time to resolve, here's the dashboard where you go to see those reports. Or another feature here, or I should say, and another feature here is we have this list search. So anyone who has tried to search inside of SharePoint knows it's kind of a pain, right? It's not clean, it's not easy. So this list search gives you the ability to search information related to a list or a set of lists inside of the SharePoint site. So in this case, I'm looking at my, you know, any tickets assigned, you know, that I created. This requester equal to admin. So a reporting tool is great from, you know, a design perspective, right? Being able to look in and have a peek at easy on the eye reports that enhance SharePoint. I get a lot of other questions about raw data, like pulling things out. Can I export it to Excel? You know, can I pull out information associated to the ticket? And absolutely you can. I actually have it up here in the list search tool, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit here, and then we'll talk about the version history on the ticket as well. But exporting to Excel, this is the SharePoint list feature, available in any SharePoint list, and we want to make that just as easy in our systems as it would be inside of SharePoint, maybe even a little easier, right? So um, you can see export to Excel. And the reason I pause there for a sec is because I get that question quite a bit. Hey, can this work with A or can this work with B? Does it hide anything away from SharePoint? And the answer is no, right? We want to work hand in hand with what Microsoft is doing. We want to make sure our tools are at the very front end and making sure we're in compliance with anything that Microsoft puts out from a SharePoint perspective, Power Platform perspective, etc. The other piece, I don't know why I like this so much, but the print manager. Again, because just like searching inside of SharePoint, printing inside of SharePoint is kind of a pain, right? So being able to create a view on a SharePoint list and being able to pull it into a PDF, right? Like how easy is that? See the case ID, the ticket ID, and then see all the categories associated with that ticket ID that you want, right? Title, issue type, requester, status, assigned staff. And these are controllable. You can put any columns you want that you can spit it out to a PDF, right? PDF, print, email it, you can PNG it. It gives you the ability to work the data as you want. Now, one other feature here, just quickly, just briefly, kind of highlights what we can do in some other spaces. If I have piqued your interest with any of the other applications in purchasing, right? So this is our list print, right? So you can print out multiple items in a list and display it in a template, okay? This one should be a little different. Yeah, this is the internal side, right? This is different than what we saw on the dashboard. We also have the item print level, where you can print a specific item with a rich text print template. So we have the kind of the all items view, like being able to print all of your items in the columns you want on those items. Or you can print it at the list level. See my little signature there. Or sorry, at the item level, and make it a rich text print template, something like this, where you can map over information from the SharePoint item into the print template and create your own header and your footer. And you can even leverage our digital signature piece inside of our form and have that displayed on this case, the purchase order as well. So again, everything feeds into each other. It's NITRO Studio. Once you understand NITRO Studio, the adoption of our applications becomes that much easier, and it really highlights what you can do from a design perspective. Or the flip side, hey, this looks pretty cool out of the box on day one, and I can run with it. Yeah, so I'm just kind of tracking back and things in my head that we talked about that I wanted to get through, and we talked about ticket creation. Sorry guys, I lost my headset there for a sec. It died on me. So we talked about ticket creation. We talked about ticket working. We talked about the admin side and its interaction with NITRO Studio. So right now, what I'd like to do is just kind of open it up for questions. Or Scott, are there any questions that you want me to cover while we're here?
Let me get on board about, let's see. And one was about the email. Can you show the email? Did you show the email history tab to show that all the emails are linked to the ticket so that people can? One question was like, how do you know what emails are associated with the correspondence with the end user or whoever you're talking to?
Right. So yeah, when we send this email, what we do in the Crow Canyon, email manager piece is what it does is it creates a unique ticket ID or a unique case ID specific to this ticket, right? So now what we do is we create a thread and it associates this email thread to the ticket, right? In this case, the email history task list or email history list gets associated to the ticket. So now anytime someone responds with this case ID, it writes into this email history list.
That's right. That's right. And if you go to the email manager, if you're in the ticket itself and you go to Crow Canyon email at the top in the bar, these like, I think you mentioned this, but to make it more explicit is that, see, the mail templates, you can choose what canned message, like canned messages you can send. You could have a whole long list of messages there that are responses to that particular ticket. Maybe you get a percentage of tickets that are easy to respond to with just a simple message. No, like Ryan was saying, there's also the bot, there's things you can do on the portal to give users instant answers, but sometimes people just insist on sending an email, so they send an email in and then becomes a ticket. And then to respond to it, you just go to email, click an email, choose that template, which is your canned message, and bada bing, you're good to go. You just
A huge
send
time saver.
it right out. Yeah,
Yeah.
all these things you can do with email. So that was one thing. People were asking me, you could set up a whole bunch of these canned messages. They're ready to go when the person sends in an email about that. So another thing is about associated items. You showed the related tabs, and I think you did talk about how tasks can be related to a ticket, right? And time tracking could be related to a ticket, or a project could be, I mean, everything could be related. Everything's relatable to each other, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's a huge part of what we do here, right? I mean, you're going to see that, as the more videos you watch with Crocanyon, the more demos you sit in on, it's connecting all those lists together, that associated items feature inside of the forms. Being able to connect all of those lists together as much as possible to have them all consumed from one screen, from one form, so you don't have to click from list to list.
Another big part of that are the assets. If you have assets tied to Helpdesk, you can have, the ticket can be about one or more assets. Usually it's maybe one asset, some server's not working, or laptop's not working, or monitor's not working, or whatever. You can have this complete tie-in between the assets, the IT assets or equipment, and the ticketing system. So it becomes a very comprehensive way of managing the IT tickets and the assets together.
Right, and that's what I'm showing here. In this iteration of the help desk, I have embedded it inside of Teams. We talked about our related items feature when it comes to maybe email and tasks and problem and change management. But you can also link your assets tool here as well.
Okay, here's an interesting question. Okay, two questions. One is about, okay, one person's asking if you can send in a K to 12 students don't always know their own email address, so that's okay. The thing is, if you're in the system will automatically fill in your email address when you open up the ticket based on your user. We have a user info filler aspect to it, like a new ticket, it's automatically filled in with their information. They don't have to type in their email address. They do have to know what email address to send it to. Usually something support@whatever.com or .edu if it's a school, I guess. Or it can be just they use a portal. The portal, I mean, basically, if they know how to go to a portal, how to use a web page, and what kid doesn't these days, you go there and just fill out the ticket. It automatically comes in. See, it's all filled in already. They don't need to know their own email address. Presumably, they don't even need to know their name, Ryan, right?
No, it does it for them. Yeah.
All they have to remember is their username and login, and everything else from there cascades down, right?
That's exactly right.
Just pulling from SharePoint profile, as long as you have, everything, the email address is definitely going to be in the SharePoint profile, but if you want the phone or department or school they're in or grade or student ID number, all that can be pulled in from the Active Directory into the ticket automatically. It's a part of our forms designer has automatic fill, and you could decide what fields you want to be filled in based on what fields in Active Directory. It makes a connection between the two. Again, linking everything together, right? So that's what it is. It can make it real simple for students if you need to with this portal. Portal can you get kind of design it to be kid friendly, I guess, in the sense. Kid friendly these days might be smartphone friendly though, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I know. Did you show the mobile view in the forms? How we can show the different previews in the form designer?
I didn't know. That's a good point. Yeah, let me pull this up real quick.
So that's you're looking at an associated task right now, but you see, you can show right when you're designing the form how it's going to look in the tablet or the smartphone, like he's doing there, and then you can design it accordingly. So that's a nice feature too. Okay, another question here is about asset tracking. Assets don't have to be entered manually. They're entered, you can import them with a spreadsheet, or we can integrate with an existing asset tracking system such as SCCM or one of those others. And then when that coordination the data sync will bring in all the information from that network discovery tool into our assets and populate the asset database That way you have the assets in our system with a whole bunch. You can add on metadata, who bought it, when it was bought, how much it costs, how many tickets have been associated with it, where it's been used, and not, is it in inventory, is it on the shelf? All those kind of metadata call about the assets, in addition to having the ability to click into what the network discovery tool is telling you about CPUs, RAM, hot fixes, and all the intimate details about the asset itself from the network discovery. But in the asset management tool, you can also have assets imported. You could enter them manually. Sometimes things are in inventory. The discovery tool is not going to find them if they're sitting on the shelf, right? Not connected to the network. So yeah, we have a variety of ways to enter that information, but it isn't all manual. Okay.
Yeah.
Parent-child tickets. How about that one? That's kind of what we do already with the problem change management, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. We talked a little bit about that during the demo about creating a problem from a ticket. So being able to link multiple tickets to a particular problem, and then when the problem is closed out, the subsequent child tickets are closed. So like I think we use like the Exchange server being down, right? You're having an email issue and everyone everyone sends in, you're getting all these intermittent email problems. So instead of having to go through it, they can close that out.
Right. And the good thing what you can also do with assets is I mean, you're talking about parent-child tickets, but with assets, I just remembered you can do like regular maintenance tasks too. If you need to set up a schedule every 3 months, you've got to, reboot the defibrillator or whatever, I don't know, something, whatever.
Exactly. And in a lot of cases, with our customer bases, they actually have those tasks create tickets in the help desk, right? So it's not two independent systems. Now anytime a maintenance task pops up on an asset, it writes into the help desk automatically.
That's right. Great way to keep track of that, and makes a full comprehensive system with the omni-channel support and the way of tracking everything through its to completion, the reminders, the reporting. So yeah. All right, that's about on the questions. I don't see too many more.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I mean, I mentioned it a few times. If you guys are interested in anything that we didn't talk about today, assets or purchasing or just Nitro in general, give me or Scott a ring, send us an email, and we'll be happy to take you through an individual demo. I think that's a nice way to the next kind of like step in the process would be let's talk about your independent requirements or individual requirements, I should say, and then yeah, we'll go from there. Right, Scott? Would you agree?
Yeah. We have a whole range, and if you're interested, a range of applications. If you're interested in NITRO Studio itself as an InfoPath replacement outside of the service desk, we can do that also. NITRO Studio can be used for many purposes, and place InfoPath forms, asset form, access forms, Lotus notes, any paper process spreadsheet. We use it all the time. In fact, we're just doing a new one this morning with our NITRO Studio for something in marketing. It's just you can whip up these. Get rid of spreadsheets and all that and whip up a new little process easily inside a site in SharePoint using NITRO Studio. It's kind of, form, workflow. Pretty soon you have a whole process automated in a very short time. Pretty cool.
Exactly right.
All right.
Well, thanks everyone for joining. I appreciate you guys' time. Scott, thanks for jumping on here and answering questions, and we hope to chat with everyone soon.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Okay, good. Thanks everyone for attending.